Well, good morning. I'd like to welcome all of you to a great webinar that we've got today. It is on overcoming legal issues with reputation management. I am Trent Cotney, CEO of Cotney Construction Law, and we are very fortunate and lucky today to have Anna Anderson with Art Unlimited here. We're going to go over a lot of different issues, and we're going to talk about the business side of things. Anna's going to go through her experience and helping manage reputation for her customers and some of the things that she sees from a real world perspective. And then I'll chime in on the legal, if, things that I see when stuff goes wrong, what to do and kind of what not to do. So really looking forward to this presentation. Anna, thank you so much for being a part of it. Obviously, you're a valued affinity partner. We'll talk about that at the end, but why don't you go ahead and take it away?
Awesome. Thanks so much, Trent. It is always an honor to present my passion, which is marketing. And we've gone back and forth on some reputation management topics for clients. And I think it's very fitting in today's times, the importance of reputation management. When you had asked me to do this presentation, I have actually been walking through some challenges with some customers. And I want to step back and talk about brand and reputation management, because it's the brand that also helps influence the reputation and vice versa. So just bear in mind, everyone watching and watching on replay, that this presentation is talking about both reputation and brand management. So a little bit about who we are, and I think that's important for context, understanding our company. We have been in business for over 35 years. My father started the business long, long ago, before digital marketing was a thing. So today we have over 35 full-time marketers within our company, and we provide a full suite of digital and traditional marketing services to our customers. The roofing industry is one of my passions, and you can see from many of the different logos listed here that the NRCA is, we hold a membership with the organization. We're also well connected with National Women in Roofing. I'm the communication chair, and I'm on the board of the Roofing Technology Think Tank. So among other different partnerships, those are near and dear to my heart. And recently we added the Cotney Consulting Group. So we're pretty excited about that. Another unique differentiator is we have a US-based team, and our team members who work on roofing marketing. They also have an awareness of OSHA compliance standards, which I think is really relevant for our conversation today, is just making sure that the marketing and recommendations we are providing to our customers have that perspective brought to the table, because there's all types of images and or language that can be used as non-OSHA compliant and can really be a problem down the road. So let's dive into first managing your brand. Like I referenced, we've had many conversations about the importance of a brand and how to go about building it. So I'm going to share some stories as we go through. And Trent, I know you said that you have some stories as well. So when we have businesses that come to us and say, we're considering possibly doing a name change, and or we want to look at creating a brand within our company. So we're either going to create a product, or we're going to name a certain type of service that we provide. We always strongly recommend that someone goes through and looks at, is that name currently trademarked, and or is it being used by someone that has a trademark for that name? It's gotten our customers out of some potentially sticky positions, because we've done some work up front to ensure that they are able to secure that trademark and then market it. So some of our larger campaigns have gone through all of the initiative to trademark certain phrases and or words or titles for their services. And then we have been able to go back to either manufacturers or competitors and say, this term and or tagline, brand and name is no longer able to be used. It's helped differentiate our customers from other businesses as well. And many times those trademarked phrases are highly recognizable by your consumer. And that's what people think about when they say, hey, we want to work with this company. It's that just quick little phrase that comes to mind. So one unique story that I wanted to share here is we had a business that came to us and said, our business name is being used by another business. They have 3 locations across the Midwest. And in one of their locations, a new competitor sprouted up, and they quickly had to identify and do some damage control because this new competitor that was using their name actually had a very bad track record. So they would roll company names. And so we were able to say, hey, do you own that trademark for and legally own the name, and can we go after that company? So we did some traditional brand management for their company and a variety of other things, but I think this just speaks to the importance of making sure that you own your company's name, the trademark, and all the assets associated with it.
Yeah, and let me chime in here. And trademark is one of those things that we get called on a lot. So we help process trademarks and we file suit to enforce trademarks.
Right.
And a lot of times we get asked by roofing contractors that are starting their business or interested in trademarking a slogan or a tagline to kind of go through that process. And what I recommend is start with some self-help, which is basically do a Google search. Okay, if it's a company name, check your state's Department of Corporations database to see whether or not it's taken. Some things like that, just to get a sense, even though it's not official, you're getting an understanding of what it is. Okay, the next step is you go to the USPTO website, and there's a couple of different places that you need to look. Okay, the first is what's known as the Trademark Electronic Search System, or TESS, and the government loves acronyms. So you go to this, and then that allows you to search for whatever it is that you're trying to trademark. And you need to be descriptive, okay? You need to try it in 5 or 6 different ways. Try roof, roofing, roofer, you want to go through all the different variations. And I'll tell you why that's important in a second. Once you've actually filed your trademark, and the actual filing of the trademark itself isn't overly complicated. What's complicated is what can potentially come after that. So when you file it, you can go to that USPTO website. In particular, you can go to tsdr.uspto.gov, okay? And what that will do is it will show you the status of your trademark, including any agency action that's taken on that. Now, a lot of times we get involved when things go south, okay? And what happens is an attorney is assigned to your trademark. The attorney will take a look at things. The examining attorney will look at it, and they're very by the book, okay? If there is anything whatsoever that could potentially interfere with your ability to get the trademark, they're gonna note it in an agency action letter, okay? You will get that notification electronically via email, and then it's very important that you respond within the time frame. They give you a large time frame. For example, the ones that we've been getting here recently, it's not to the end of the year when they're due, okay? I like to be proactive though. I like to get on it. I like to make sure that I'm getting it in front of them. I want to get those trademarks taken care of as quickly as possible. The other thing that I would mention is that if you end up in a situation where you have a potential infringement of a trademark that you have, so you've gone through this process, you've gone all the way through it, you got the nice little document that says trademark, and you've got somebody that's infringing on that trademark, you want to think about what the most cost-effective way is to go after that person. So a lot of times, I just had this issue, this literally just came up today, trademark infringement out in Wyoming. And one of the things that we were asked is, how do you go about pursuing this? Well, there's usually some state options, and trademark is a federal option. So you need to think about your choice of remedies. What's the quickest way from point A to point B? Nobody likes lawyers, right? So the idea is, don't spend money on us, spend money to get your trademark enforced, figure out what the easiest way is to go about doing it. Absolutely agree with what Anna said. You've got to get the intellectual property on what you want to do before you put it out there. So,
yeah. No, so that's to me, some of the foundational work that needs to be implemented to make sure that as you go to market, you have the arsenal to back up the campaigns. And then you can quickly expand if you'd like, and you don't have any legal action that could be coming after you once you've already invested millions into your brand. So what we talked about the legal side, what I want to also discuss is brand recognition. So when we look at the brand of a company, I always challenge our customers and people who come to me and ask for consulting to critically look at the brand that is representing your business. This is the icon that users will recognize you through. When you look at kind of that typical roofing logo, you see the peak and you maybe see a couple of windows in the logo. Having a unique element within your brand icon is critical. It differentiates you from your competitors. And we have found that some of our strongest brands that we represent within the roofing industry are unique. And that uniqueness is able to be carried out throughout their marketing. So we look closely at, are there any infringements on the brand? Is it improperly used in other arenas? And that consistency is also something that Google's AI is starting to interpret and look for. So that's a whole nother topic, but very exciting, some of the advancements happening there.
Yeah, with our brand, which is right there, we went through the process of trying to figure out something that would appeal to different people. So when you create a brand, you want to make sure that it's going to resonate with your potential audience. So a lot of, we had a focus group look at the brand, figure out what the best way is to go about doing it. And we had different people say, well, it looks like a military chevron. It looks like pipe fittings. It looks like flashing. It looks like arrows. And then I was like, okay, that's good, because it means different things to different people, but it's recognizable. And that's the kind of thing you want to make sure, and you hit it over and over and over and over again, because with marketing, branding, and advertising, it's a game of numbers. They might not remember you the first time, the 5th time, or the 10th time, but they're going to remember you the 11th time. And that's why you always stay consistent.
Yeah, it's repetition, and it's a brand that can be used across multiple platforms. So you're correct, Cotney has it on point. The other thing to consider, and Trent and I we were just talking about this before jumping on the webinar, is the importance of not only securing your .com, but also looking at what other domain extensions would be valuable for the growth of your company. So securing your brand is important also at the domain name level. Also look at taglines or sub-brands that could possibly be used for supporting campaigns. You always want to use your primary domain name for all optimization and digital marketing, but traditional marketing efforts are commonly leveraging some of those sub-brand domain names, and it's a great opportunity to be able to identify incoming traffic from that campaign. So here's a list of some of the more common domain name extensions. And you can see for the search that I did, we have a .com for this company and a .fun, which I think is a lot of fun. But other types of domain name extensions are called generic top-level domains. This is a new opportunity. And to date, Google is still discovering whether it has the same weight as a .com within the algorithm, and or do the .us, .biz, .org also have the same weight. So that's just a food for thought, but here are some of the top level domains that might make sense for the companies watching today's webinar. And this list continues to grow and expand, but now you at least know, if you see GTLD, you know that's a generic top level domain. And depending on the size of your company, it might make sense to secure the .org, .biz, .net, .us, and beyond for your business. Because if you have a philanthropy as wing of the company, the .org would make sense, etc. So Trent, I know you just secured the .ca for Cotney.
Canada, yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so those are some of the different acquisitions that are beneficial to be able to secure before someone else secures it. It is not uncommon for someone to secure your digital property before you do. So once it's taken, it's taken. I also wanted to highlight the importance of recognizing who claims and or do you claim your social brand. And this is considered your handle. It is your identity on all of these different platforms. Obviously, these many different platforms might not be relative to the industry that we're talking about today, which is roofing and construction. But I think it's important to understand all of the different places that can be scraped to know where you sit. So there's tools out there that can look at all of the different social channels and say that your business name, maybe its location is added to it, can be claimed. For example, we had a customer that had all of the different social channels except for Instagram claimed under their business name. And we then had to go through a very long process to secure that account for them. But it's much easier if you do a lookup prior to naming your company and or diving into social, that all of your handles have consistency. So for Art Unlimited, we have tried through all of our social channels to do Art Unlimited USA. That's our domain name. That's how we have our handle set up at this point. And that has allowed us to have consistency across our channels.
That consistency is very important. I'll give you some real world. I'll be at a trade show or something, and I'm trying to tag one of the associations, and I can't find whatever they say their name is on Twitter or Instagram or whatever I'm trying to post on. So if you have something that's consistent all the way throughout, it's very easy to tag somebody, and what that's going to do is it's going to increase the likelihood that you're going to show up in other people's searches.
Yeah, huge. And with this next slide, when you talk about brand monitoring and the importance and being able to tag somebody, it's essential, but it's also critical to have consistency when you do brand listening. So this is an example of a customer of ours, and we're doing brand monitoring and listening for them, both on the web and also through social channels. We heightened our efforts for our clients due to COVID. We wanted to make sure that if there was any confirmed cases for our customers, and if there was any negative sentiment out there saying, hey, we actually had problems due to a crew coming in, and obviously that crew was released and put in quarantine for the appropriate period of time. But we wanted to make sure that if there were any negative sentiments that were issued around our clients, we had the ability to be able to mitigate and manage the brand's reputation. So this is an example of brand mentions for a client of ours, and you can see the pulse here. That is every mention that occurred, and you can see the domain names that they were mentioned on, how many times, and the estimated reach. So this allows us to look at where we should place our efforts and who we need to leverage relationships with to make sure that if there's ever any issues that would arise or opportunities for the brand to gain a backlink, modify some of the context within that content, because you don't always know that you're mentioned until you see the article, right? I'm sure, Trent, you have that all the time. People referenced you and you're like, whoa, I don't know that I said that.
Yeah, it's I try to search Google at least once a week, in addition to having the automatic Google alerts come in anytime something happens. But the ongoing monitoring is absolutely critical, because the sooner you can deal with potential negativity, the better. From a customer standpoint, you definitely want to be able to control what's out there, and this allows you to understand what that is.
Yeah. And we focus and say, okay, what negative sentiments do we need to address first, and go from there. I wanted to share this brand growth report so that you can see Google's perception of a business that we represent. We began working with them in 2014, and you can see there was very little brand recognition for this company prior to, and now we have begun to see a growth. As the company has grown, the brand has increased its traction within the geographical area. They have increased in their revenue. But what we notice is Google's algorithm is focusing more on the importance of a brand. And when you search construction law, Google is starting to pre-populate and say, did you mean Cotney construction law? Same goes for roofing related marketing services. Art Unlimited begins to populate. And so as a roofer, what we see is in certain territories within the US, your company will be displayed because of your brand's impact within Google's algorithm. So based off of this chart, Google is predicting significant growth opportunity in the near future just because some of the signals that are happening. This then will impact your circulation within the algorithm. You will see a higher saturation of your listings appear both through Google local service ads. Your pay-per-click campaign will be more profitable. Your Google My Business will display more. Your organic will come up much, much higher. And customer sentiment is also a huge factor. If you have low customer sentiment, then you're going to really have a hard time ranking and moving forward. So I love looking at some of Google's inside data, and I had to share that. So let's talk about reviews, the importance of reviews, and how to leverage them for your company. This is a report from 2018 when there was a national survey within the US that said, what are the industries that have the fewest reviews? And I just want to backtrack to that date because at that time, construction and roofing businesses was ranked the 5th in the industries that had the fewest reviews. Today, we are much, much higher, which is great. And I'm going to share some numbers of the growth that has happened. But that just speaks to the advancements that have happened in the roofing industry and the importance of the services that are provided. I many times get questions regarding what are the most important review platforms that I should focus my effort on. And I think the big question we should all be asking ourselves is, where do your customers live, right? Do your customers use Google? It's kind of a no-brainer, but you need to ask it. Are your customers on social media? Is Facebook the platform that they live and breathe through? And then in unique instances, Yelp is also a huge driver for some of our companies that we represent along the West Coast, the East Coast, and down south. The Midwest is not a hot Yelp region, but it does have a lot of impact. And then as you go in and you start to ask for reviews, make sure you have a communication plan. We're going to dive into that. But today I want to make sure if you're asking for reviews, you're asking for Google, then Facebook second, and Yelp is third. So here's why Google My Business has the most US monthly traffic by a long shot. And we can see here it's 158 million plus. It also has a significant amount of traffic. We have Facebook second, Yelp third, and the BBB is fourth. And although the BBB has a much smaller audience pool, they are active and it gets a lot of traction, especially when people are looking at should they actually pull the trigger with your company or not. What I want to highlight for some of the tech geeks who might be watching, and I know Trent and I both look at this, what is the future of the web? As we look at more smart devices, smart homes, smart buildings, we understand the importance of Alexa and the ranking that your business has within that platform. We're right now researching Web 3.0, the advancements and the opportunities that lie for companies moving forward into the future. And so I want to point out why we focus on Google My Business, not only just for reviews, but also for the that next phase of digital commerce. So Yelp is also feeding a variety of different Alexa portals. So although it's ranked low, I think it's an up and coming platform that you should watch closely. The other thing that I find extremely interesting is the number of minutes that a user spends looking at reviews and the importance of those reviews. So don't ever underestimate what effort needs to go into gaining positive reviews, because it's significant. Key data points, and there's always a baseline. So where does your business fit versus your competitors? Here's just on a national average, 4.3 stars is where most businesses sit. We audit hundreds of businesses, and we're working on a massive data set right now where we're taking the thousands of businesses we've audited over time and saying, what is the national average for every business that we have touched? So I'm really excited about looking at that data in the coming weeks and months. How many roofers have reviews? You can see it right there, 58%. So there's a lot of opportunity to win. But the main data point that you need to be aware of is the frequency and accuracy of the reviews that come in is critical. And so that's the third data point I want everyone to be aware of is you need to make sure the higher your ratings are, the better, but also the frequency has a very strong impact to the importance of where you sit and where Google will position you. Here's why. So I wanted to break down what are those three key metrics to be aware of. It's total number of Google reviews. That's a pretty big thing. And I pulled 4 large companies from across the US, and you can see from 1,000 to 400 reviews, they've got it going. They have an engine behind them to generate reviews consistently. So the business that I was tracking, they were right now ranked second in total number of reviews, but the rating on Google is a 4.9. It is very hard to stay above a 4.5. What we see when you drop below a 4.5, you hit that 4.3, there's a different algorithm shift that occurs, and there's a lower frequency that your listing is served up at. And you also have some shifts within local service ads that impact and if your budget will be used. So bear in mind that the higher your review count is and also your rating is, you will see a significant shift in local service ads and your ranking within your Google My Business Map Pack. The frequency of reviews and how they talk in between platforms is also critical. Google is right now making a lot of advancements to have their platforms talk to a greater dimension. You are going to be seeing some shifts happening in the next a few weeks and months regarding the integration of more of Google's services. So we're seeing service ads come into play and begin to talk back and forth with Google My Business. Here is, Trent, I'm getting a little feedback. Are you getting feedback?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Good deal. The way that Google is using the search results is by using through structured data, the review count, and also the price point to work with this company. So when we look at the click-through rate for listings that have review counts included, it is jumping the click-through rate by 5%, 10%, or 15%. Google does not always honor the requests to have structured data and review count within that listing, but if it does honor that request, we usually see some significant rewards from that effort. I don't know, Trent, if you have found yourself, do you click through more when there's stars versus not stars?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm paying attention to a couple of things when I'm looking for something. One is I the description. I find a lot of times that customers don't spend enough time explaining not just what they do, but how they are different from their competitors. And then obviously I look at the ratings, I look at the stars. I mean, it is. I don't know if I am one of those types of customers that will actually do a deep dive into the reviews. I'm just looking for a basic, okay, you passed the sniff test, you're not in the threes, you're probably pretty good. But like you said before, I think it's imperative that you have to be proactive on this. If you let it go, if you're not paying attention to it, then that's exactly what your potential customers are going to think, that this person doesn't, if they don't care about this, they're not going to care about me. And they will go on to the next person. One of the sayings I like is, it's not here today, gone tomorrow. It's here today, gone today. And that's the new world order we live in now. Everything is run off of this now. So I think you're spot on. It's imperative that you pay attention to all aspects of it, and you have to be able to manage that rating. And I know we'll get into it in some future slides, but how to respond to negativity is something that's critical.
Totally. So let's dive in and talk about that. The importance of reviews. I think we've been building towards that, but reputation, in my opinion, truly is an expectation of future behavior and past experiences. You can't get around it very easily if you have a bad reputation out there, right? But if you have a good reputation within the communities that need your services and or products, you have a much easier path ahead of you of closing business, growing your company, etc. So how and what is the importance of those reviews? So behind the scenes, again, I love the tech side of data and marketing and how it all works. You might have seen in the last year, Google rolled out some unique features to Google My Business, and it is schematically identifying unique terms that are used within Google's review count. So for this customer that I pulled, they had 17 attic references, and you can go on down the list. It was much longer, but the user can select attic and read all of the reviews that are occurring around attic insulation. This is also helping to influence the organic ranking of the business within search queries that surround attics. We have positive ranking signals that pertain to workmanship, that pertain to roofing, that pertain to roof. And you can see this listing that I was auditing ranges between a 5 and a 4.9 for some of the key search terms that users are seeking out their services through. This is helping them be positioned in those very competitive search queries that others kind of start scratching their head and going, well, they must have just a really great SEO team. And yes, they do, because we do their work. But the other piece to be aware of is that their team is not only asking for reviews, has a great review management process in place, but their customers are also giving really honest feedback, and they're including the terminology that Google is seeking and saying, hey, we had a roofing project done. Our roof was repaired, was replaced. So those are some of the unique hidden elements that Google is using to be able to make sure that your company is properly positioned. So how do you ask for reviews? And I like to challenge our customers to make sure that you are setting expectations from the beginning that you want to have feedback from your customers. When your sales team member is doing that demo or is meeting and doing the consulting and the inspection, asking and saying, at the end of this, I will love feedback on what your experience has been all the way through the job. That also sets the tone and lets that individual understand that you're expecting to win their business and you are expecting to have a great experience at the end of the job. Don't overpromise, but over-deliver. And I think that's one key thing, that a lot of people will overpromise and under-deliver. I was actually just working through a negative review for a customer this morning, and I had to ask that, did you overpromise? Or was it just a job that went awry and you needed to step in and you needed to handle it? And so those are some key conversations to have with your team and say, we need to make sure that we are doing a great job throughout the entire experience that the customer has. And they know that at the end of the day, we're going to be asking for their feedback. Just asking for feedback at the end of the project when you have completed, we find there's a much lower success rate in users who actually leave a review on Google, Facebook, Yelp, or another platform that's desired. So just setting that stage up is really critical.
Yeah, and to kind of echo off that, I think everything that we do from a legal standpoint, a lot of it could have been resolved from a customer service side of things. And most disputes arise out of a failure to properly manage your customers' expectations.
Yep.
So a lot of times, Anna, we get tasked with, drafting contracts or employee manuals or safety manuals, all that kind of stuff. And look, I can put together a great contract, right? I can do it in calligraphy, and it's beautiful. It's a work of art. But the reality is you don't ever have to go to that contract if you've got great customer service. And that's the key, is that's always the difference. If you can set those expectations up at front, if you can manage, if there's a delay on a project, if you can manage that with the customer, then it's less likely that you're going to get those random negative reviews that you see Saturday night while you're, sitting in the recliner watching TV. You've already managed that customer's expectations. They know that you're not going to be on schedule, and you're doing your best to deal with it.
Yeah. And it always happens when you're sitting down and it's after hours, right? And you can't call in your team and say, okay, let's strategize, let's find out what happened. But that is important to make sure that expectations are set up right. I think the other thing that I find is a lot of people don't understand what the benchmark is for their company. They say, well, we just need to gain as many reviews as possible. And although that's true, you need to look at who your competitors are and where they sit. Like we looked at the 4 main hitters within the Midwest and East Coast in a few slides prior. And although they had 400 to 1,100 reviews, that might not be your local community. So how many reviews do you need to make sure that you are the dominating player? Do some groundwork and just manually search who their competitors are, how many reviews they have on Google, Facebook, and other platforms that you might choose. Again, Yelp might be applicable to your area. That will give you a great benchmark because reviews do have an impact on the ranking factor. So in the US right now, we're sitting at 39 is the average reviews that a lot of people have. And so I would say that although the average is 39, we see that you, as a general rule of thumb, in the residential market, need to have over 100 reviews in order to have a dominating seat at your local level. On a commercial perspective, having 35 to 50 and or 70 in more competitive areas is kind of some of the general benchmarks that I would look for as far as having a really healthy review count in order to be able to rank for search queries. So just kind of do some due diligence on your part to understand where you need to be. And then what is your rank percentile as far as the review and average star rating versus your competitors? A lot of people don't take the time to say, hey, my competitor is at a 5-star and they have 30 reviews and I'm at a 3.9 even though I have 150 reviews. That's going to be conflicting to Google's algorithm, and you might see your competitor rise to the top. There's a lot of different pieces that come into play here, but just bear in mind that having really high review count is important, but also the average star rating is a powerful player as well. That relationship piece is essential to making sure that you have the ability to go in at the end of the project and say, would you leave a review for our business? And we have a lot of customers who take selfies with their customers. And so having that relationship really speaks to the ability to not only ask for a review, but have a higher conversion rate. If you are running 10, 15, 20, or hundreds of jobs on a weekly basis, we see on average people that do not have strong relationships with their customers about a 10% conversion from doing a review ask to them actually receiving a review. If you have a strong relationship with your customers, we see a 25 to 30% conversion rate from those review requests that are sent out. And or there may be a text to the user right on premise. You cannot leave a review anymore on behalf of a customer, but you can walk them through the path that is needs to be taken in order for a review to be left. One caveat to know is Yelp is really a stickler. So a lot of people hate Yelp, but we are seeing some significant algorithm shifts that are happening with Yelp, and their importance within key search results is important. So making sure that if a customer says, hey, I want to leave a review for you on a certain platform, but they have questions, you can definitely walk them through that review process. The relationship cannot be leveraged by asking for a review and then they will be entered into a contest. That violates Google's legal parameters, and they say that if you have a contest for someone to be able to acquire something by leaving a review, then your reviews and or listing could be removed. So just bear in mind that no longer contests can be used to capture more reviews. So if you have a contest internally within your sales team and say, hey, we want to make sure that we're asking for reviews, because I see a lot of sales teams or customer relationship management teams not following the process and saying, hey, would you leave a review for us? That is okay. So that is technically still within Google's good graces, but just bear in mind, if you do the other, you will definitely have problems. And Google My Business, although there's support with the launch or once COVID started, I apologize, not launch, but once COVID started sweeping the country, Google My Business dispersed their team and they are working from home. They have said that their work from home policy will be in effect until July of 2021, which means that Google's support is going to be limited. But they are still rolling through and suspending listings, wiping reviews down like nobody's business. And so it is challenging if you don't abide by their regulation to go back and mitigate that problem. So just be very careful that you are following the current rules of today's regulations. I don't know, Trent, have you had any Google My Business or legal conversations that you've had to have recently based off of Google telling their entire team to work from home?
Yeah, we've been tasked by some customers to have certain reviews removed because either there was defamatory statements that were made in there, stuff that wasn't truthful, or they just wanted to see what we can do. And a lot of times, I've found it to be more difficult to get to someone that can actually answer the question during these times than I did, maybe this time last year. I would say we've encountered some apathy too, and a lot of times, one of the things that I'll talk about is some things that you can do contractually to expedite the process of removal of defamatory reviews. But why don't you go ahead and talk a little bit about it, and then I'll kind of chime in at the end there.
Awesome, sounds great. So responding to reviews is very important. Responding quickly to negative reviews and positive reviews. So we looked at the positive review marks for a company. Now we see some negative reviews regarding billing, scheduling, debris. And so these are pieces that if someone was searching for, Google uses and elevates both positive and negative based off of certain types of search queries. Making sure that you quickly communicate any issues to your team and make it right for the customer is essential. So it's great that you reference, you're sitting on the couch and all of a sudden you receive a negative review. That has happened countless times that we reach out to customers after hours, it's on weekends and or they do. And you don't, like we discussed, have the ability to have a communication with your team, but it is essential. Making sure that there is proper communication and you aren't responding with any type of content that would inflame the issue. You want to take it offline as quickly as possible. So I think that's a critical component to be aware of, and know that Google is tracking not only the positive sentiments, but the negative sentiments, and they are using that for you and against you. So here's some things to do and some things not to do. I referenced what not to do. Don't get defensive. Again, the customer that contacted me early this morning, like, I got it. They wanted to vent this review, although it had accuracy, it had inaccurate elements. We cannot change what was shared on that listing, but what we can change is how we respond and how we take action. So I strongly recommend that you're always professional. Take it offline as soon as possible and make sure that you know who the proper person is to get in touch with. Once you talk to your team, you might have 2, 3, or 4 different points of contact for that job. Identifying the person, not only who left the review, but if there is a superior that you can also talk to and communicate with and work to resolve the problem, that's essential. So again, not only talking to the individual who left the review, going up the chain of command so that all parties are aware that you are addressing the problem and you are working extremely hard to rectify the issue. What happens if the review was completely out of scope, it was inaccurate, and or a competitor left that review? Because we have had that happen. You can flag those reviews. You can work to mitigate that. You can reach out to Google and state a case. Before they disperse their entire team, we actually had weekly calls set up with Google My Business to go over our list of the reviews and or issues that might be occurring for our hundreds of clients. And that was a vital time for us to gain traction. Now it's all done digitally and it can be a lot more challenging, but it is possible. So again, make sure you take it offline and don't get defensive.
Yeah, a couple of things I'll add in there is, there's a couple of different calls that we get with regard to reviews. Some are the reviews that are clearly done by either a competitor or a former employee or something like that. They've never reviewed anybody else. There's no photo. It's, they just created the account. It's clearly a fake review. Okay, and to echo Anna's sentiment, prior to COVID, when you could get a hold of somebody at the Google business, it was fairly easy to get some of those removed. Now it's a little bit more difficult. The second sort of category that we get calls on is the stuff that's borderline defamatory. We had one recently where the customer posted, these guys were awful. They only hire illegals, and there were a bunch of other stuff in there that was very inflammatory. Okay, so oftentimes we get asked, what can you do to help? From our standpoint, obviously, you want to exercise as much customer service as you can. You want to try to work with Google. You want to try to do all that. But at some point, it gets to the point where you've got to kind of turn that corner. And if there's something in there that's so untruthful that could potentially damage your reputation extensively, what we do oftentimes is we start off with a cease and desist letter and ask for the removal. Okay, I would say the success rate with that is probably somewhere between 40 to 50%. If that doesn't work, we have actually filed suit to have those reviews removed. Now, I mentioned to you before, for those of you that are listening to this, what I want to tell you is there are some things that you can do contractually to account for the review situation that I just mentioned. Okay. Now, obviously, you don't want to have to rely on your contract. You don't want to have to go this route. Okay. This is just a last resort. One of the things I recommend is putting a fast track arbitration provision in there in the event that you get a negative review. Okay. And there are different states have different rules. So obviously we got to navigate that. But generally speaking, what we're able to do is if you get a negative review and you can fast track that through an arbitration process, get an order that you can then show to Google, you may have the capability of getting that removed. Okay.
Yep.
And that's something to think about. There are some things contractually that can be done to expedite defamatory reviews. Obviously, again, don't want to go that route. You want to stick to customer service, do what you can that way. But if you have to, you have it if you need it.
Yeah. No, key information for sure. And I hope that Google My Business brings their team back, or they figure out some of the disconnects that are happening right now from their work from home mandate.
Mm-hmm.
Let's dive in and talk about how to make it right. One thing that we have found is many times the owner does not become personally involved. And I think that's a big disconnect. The owner and or someone who has the ability to make key decisions has to be involved. If you're not receiving those notifications of negative reviews that are coming in and you are at a leadership level, then that needs to be a shift that happens as soon as possible. Also, make sure that you have someone appointed to receive all positive and negative reviews that come in, and they know what to look for within their alert system, their inbox, whatever platform you use to send you notifications, that they look and scan and quickly identify and respond and or escalate the issue. Time is critical in this case. So damage control, as you pointed out, Trent, it's a costly venture. And not only as you're going through all of the legal cease and desist and or a much higher level of legal action, that's going to cost you money as long as that review is out there. People do, although I'm a quick start and sounds like you look at the stars and go, yep, I'm working with them or not. There's a lot of people who read all of the reviews, like we referenced 13 minutes. They're reading reviews and they're making decisions off of that review, whether they want to work with you or not. So speed is essential. And I've seen this stat in many places that 78% of people trust online reviews as much as friends and families. My family does that. And I'm like, you believe that review? And they're like, yeah, it makes sense. Like they explained everything. They had photos, they had a video to back it up. I'm like, but there's 100 other positive reviews. So just be aware and make sure that you have systems and processes in place to handle, again, positive and negative reviews. Here's why it's important. This is a graph that shows the reviews generated from a company that was disengaged to when they became engaged. So you look at this gap, like November, they basically shut down all their review requests. Prior to that point, they had a couple individuals within the team that made a point to ask for reviews. So Sam and John and Alyssa, and again, fictitious names, but those three individuals within this company were asking for reviews and saying, you know, this really is important to me. But there was 30, 40 people within the company that were disengaged. So we had a great chat and I said, hey, moving forward, starting the new year, we're going to switch this and we're going to move forward with confidence. We're going to make sure everyone's on board. You're asking for reviews. You have a platform in place and we are going to make this priority. It was made priority. Their review count soared. Their customer sentiment went from mediocre to almost a 5-star. So they are doing fantastic. But the most important thing that the business owner saw was that the revenue and the leads that came in from 2018 to 2019, it just changed their whole game. And I think from sitting at the leadership level like you and I do at Trent, and many of the people who are watching today, this speaks volumes, right? Our bottom line is definitely impacted by the reviews and the customer sentiment that comes in. It's going to change the revenue and opportunities that come to us. So I've said this a lot of times, but I think it's worth saying again. The secret to getting more reviews is just asking. If you don't ask, you probably are going to get some reviews, but you're not going to get the volume of reviews needed to stay on track with your competitors. Because trust me, your competitors are taking time asking and saying, what was your experience like? How could we have made it better? Thank you so much for giving feedback. Would you leave that feedback on Google? Would you leave that feedback on Facebook, Yelp, BBB? Again, whatever platform it is that you're asking. Make sure you prioritize those platforms and your team knows what the priority platform is for that month. You can switch it up. And make sure that you cycle through the different platforms. Because again, if you focus all your effort on one and forget about the rest, you will see a suppression of your presence within those associated platforms. So let's loop back and let's talk about not only the importance of reputation, but what we see is that your reputation is influencing the ranking factor of your business. So again, I love data and the importance of that data. Here's what it means. The company that I showed you and how they increased in their Google sentiment and trends is here. And then we look at how did their traffic escalate? Obviously, their marketing embraced more platforms and their brand expanded, but you can see their traffic. It's just escalated. And during COVID, and they went off the charts. So there's huge opportunity when you have a strong brand and reputation in place. So that's my side of the presentation that I wanted to share today.
Well, thank you, Anna. I think that was insightful, and you know, it's amazing how much there is to know out there. You know, Anna, I think you and I met. I can't remember where it was. It was either Western States or Best of Success or somewhere out there on the road. And for those of you listening to this, you know, Anna is not only understands our industry, but is a really good person. And I can say that because I've worked with her with RT3 and much other things, and really knows her stuff. So highly recommend her. One of the things I want to mention to you guys is that Art Unlimited is one of Cotney's affinity partners. And what that is we have a variety of partners in different sectors that offer services to our subscribers and to our customers, both in Cotney Construction Law and Cotney Consulting Group. Art Unlimited is offering 50% off all onboarding fees for their services, and you get these great videos that come out and kind of tell you the state of marketing. Very informative. I've had the pleasure of watching a lot of them as they come through my email, so I appreciate that. If you're interested in taking advantage of this offer, please feel free to reach out to either Art Unlimited or you can reach out to our customer service team, and we'll be happy to help you. I want to talk briefly with you about our subscription plans. And if we go to the next slide. So we developed about 5 or 6 years ago, we developed some subscription plans which are unique to our industry. And the easiest way to explain it is, imagine that you have a general counsel on your team. Okay, you have unlimited services. So if you sign up for one of our plans, you don't have to worry about getting nickel and dime from a lawyer. You can call us at any time for any reason. Right now, more than ever, you know, are you prepared? Okay, it's the stuff that you don't know that hurts your business. And think about it this way: how much time do you spend a month reviewing contracts? Okay, having to call outside payroll or HR, having to call an outside consultant for safety. Well, our bronze plan, $5.99 a month. You get unlimited phone calls. Anybody in your office can call us at any time for any reason. You get unlimited contract review. It doesn't matter if it's 1 or 15 contracts, we're reviewing them all. And not just construction contracts, lease agreements, employment agreements, you name it, okay? And you get a whole host of a variety of other things, including a lot of educational information that we send out there. It's a great plan. We have hundreds of roofing contractors already on these plans all over the United States. The average savings is about 53%. There's not a better deal out there. So if you want more information on that, please feel free to reach out to me or anybody at Cotney Construction Law. We're happy to talk to you about it more. Anna, it's always a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining me today. And for those of you that would like a copy of this, we'll send you out a copy of the video as well as post it on our channels. So thank you again.
Thank you, Trent. Bye-bye.